Here we'll discuss how easy it is to create an excellent looking web form in no time. And you're going to be able to choose, as you can see here, from a number of pre-designed templates or just a template type and customize it to your own specifications. You get full control over the look and function of your web form with no coding. And keeping your users engaged is really important to maximize your conversions and minimize your bounce rates. And so with hundreds of fully customizable templates, each with a thank you page, you're going to be able to build really long-lasting relationships with your visitors and really watch your number of subscribers grow. So as you can see here, we've got lots of different web form templates, and there's also these different categories here, like kind of general forms and sign-up forms like we're used to, and then really specific ones like Facebook or event sign-up. So it's kind of a neat way for you to be able to maybe find something that you're particularly looking for, like an event sign-up or something maybe a little bit more basic or usual, like your newsletter sign up. And also, besides that, beneath that are these different layout types. So this is a really cool way to be able to change the size and format, or layout of course, of your form really easy. So here I've got selected side column. This is what you all are probably really used to seeing. This is what you see all over the place, on the sidebar of your website, this kind of side column form. But you can also see we've got some other options here. I could go fully max. That's a fully horizontal form. That could be a great option for you who want to put it on the header or the footer of your site. We've got wider and wide, so even square options as well. And so this is a good option, and it includes the sizes here, so you could be, knowing what you need, what size you might need for your website. The sizes are listed here. So remember, side column is kind of your typical form you guys might be used to seeing. Max would be your fully horizontal form. We have some good options in between as well. So this is a really neat option. But before we pick a template itself and look at the editor, I want to quickly point out a really neat feature we have now called Website Color Magic. This is where you can actually choose a web form's color scheme based on the layout and colors of a chosen website after you input the URL of the site. And so based on the colors that we find from the source code in that site that you input, we'll provide you with different color combinations that you could choose from to kind of, be showing on the form. So an easy example, of course, I can just show GetResponse.com. So I'll look for that. And so here you see the different color combinations it's come up with. And just as a little refresher, I can show you the home page. So you can see we've got blue, orange, black, white, gray. Those are the main colors here. And so over here you see that reflected. And so you can see by changing the different elements or the different combinations that you see here, some of the templates are changing, particularly the ones that are just kind of color based. Of course, ones that have an image background by default, they're not going to be changing as much. But this is kind of a quick and easy way to start your customization and really match the look of your website before we even get into the editor. So this might be a neat option for you guys. I want to make sure that you know about it. But if you're not interested in that or you don't need it, of course, we can just click restore and get back to the usual things, how they're set up. So let's choose a template and get into the editor. And hopefully this kind of looks pretty familiar to some of you if you might be using the GetResponse landing pages already. But I'll just briefly go through the editor and what we can see here in the options that you have. So I'll start from the top, because now you can actually A/B test your web forms. You can do a split test. So you can actually test out different versions of your form to see what's working best or they're getting better conversions for you. And you can create up to 8 different versions of your form. So you can just keep clicking here and changing different elements. So you can be seeing maybe what call to action's working better, maybe some copy, design of your form, kind of what's more effective. So you just create these different variants. So I'll go ahead and delete these really quick because we'll focus on one. But that is a really cool feature now that you're going to be able to A/B test your web forms. And then also you can see next to this is you have a thank you page option. And so if we choose that, you can just see here you'll be able to actually edit the form and what people would see whenever they submit the form. And so you've got the different editing options you have here. Of course, you'll be able to edit the thank you page just like you will be able to edit the web form, which I'll show you in a minute. Of course, all your editing options, but you can see you can add, the privacy badge and things like that. Just drag it and drop it right into the form. And of course, I'll show you all the editing options you have on the form itself, but just know the editing options you have on the form that we talk about, you can totally do here in the thank you page as well. And of course, you can choose to utilize your own custom thank you page. And I will show you that in just a moment. And so we can move right along here at the top, and you see this little computer icon. And this is just basically where you can check out a preview of how your form would look on a page. So if you're just working and customizing and you want to check out what it would look out of the editor, you would just click that icon. Pretty handy. And finally, next to that is the settings wheel. So this is where you're going to set up your own particular settings for this form. So we've got the general settings, which is your form name. So remember, this is internal. This is only for you. So just something to help you remember. So, you know, we could call it our newsletter homepage sign up, for example. Something to keep it straight for you. Then you want to, of course, dictate which campaign people who sign up with this form should be added to. Choose your opt-in setting. So if you want confirmed or double opt-in to be enabled for this particular form, you'd leave it on or switch it off if you want single opt-in. Choose if you want to add people who sign up to this form to your autoresponder cycle and which day of the cycle they should be added to, or if they shouldn't be added to a cycle. The thank you page, so you've got the option to stay on the same page. The default page is this thank you page here within the editor itself. So that's if you kind of want to use this page that's included on the form that you've kind of edited and customized, it would be called the default, or your own custom URL. So your own custom thank you page. If you've got a URL that you'd prefer, just input it there. And sometimes subscribers will accidentally sign themselves up more than once on the form. They think maybe, I don't know, they just for some reason are trying to submit the same form twice and they're already subscribed from the first time. You can actually choose what happens if someone does that. You could have them just stay on the same page, or if you have your own kind of custom, oops, you're already signed up URL set up with your website, you could input that here. So you could basically just dictate what should happen here. And also, I guess if you had this second sign up, you can choose if you want them to have to be, you know, captured, you know, where you have to input the little numbers or images or whatever. You can turn that on or off. And of course, we have learn more links for any of these if you're particularly curious about them. We also have some tracking options available. So track with the custom field is an option if you wanted to do some kind of back-end tracking to see how people are signing up. You can be able to track this with a custom field. So you can see all the custom fields you have created or add a new custom field. And of course, a learn more link if you're still very interested in this. And then data forwarding settings. You've got the options for data forwarding. Let me go down a little bit more here. So the data forwarding, if you want to forward contact data, this is where you'd enable it. And again, if these are things that you're particularly interested in, I won't, you know, keep you all here for it. So just click learn more on this section of the settings if you're interested in that. So with our settings all set up, we can simply click save, and we've got that part totally done. So we can get to the fun stuff now and actually start editing and adding some fields. So remember, this is the default template that we have chosen to work with. And so you'll be able to see by clicking your mouse on all the different elements that exist on the form, the editing options that you have. So of course, I could highlight this text here, the headline text, and I'm going to go over here to style. And I'll be able to, you know, change up the style of this. Let's say I wanted to use a different font, maybe Arial. And I want to change the color to something kind of like that. Okay? And I can change the size easily like that. It could be bolded. And of course, you can just easily move it around. So you've got these helpful alignment tools here to help you kind of move it around and see how things are adding up. And then, you know, put your own text on there. So we can delete this. And just, you know, I'll give a very general sign up now. Of course, what it had was actually a pretty cool headline, but just for our example, I can use sign up now, increase the size a little bit, move it around. Here, let me move that a little. So you can see, since I was over here in this Style tab, the Style tab is where you're going to be, of course, styling the element that you're working with. So that was our headline, so that's how I was able to, you know, you see you even have like text shadow options, and this is all the appearance and information for the font and all of that. So that's going to be the style. And now let's say I want to add a field. And so we've got email address and first name here, but let's say I wanted to add a field. So I'm actually going to extend this form a little bit to give me a little bit more room. You can see I just kind of dragging it a little bit like this. You can see resizing it. Just a little, maybe I won't do it that much, just a little bit more, okay? Now I'm going to move the button down a little. And now you can see we've got some predefined fields that, at GetResponse we know are very common fields that people might want to include on a form. And there's also your own custom fields. So the custom fields you've created in your account already, you'll be able to add them there. Or your own, the GetResponse predefined fields that we assume someone might be asking pretty frequently. So pretty common information people want is, let's say, company name. So you can see I'm just lining it up here. That looks good. And so we could, pretty much assume that company would be something that we're asking of. But you can see that that doesn't exactly match the kind of look of these fields. So if I select this again, and actually can go to the layout, I see the placeholder is company. I'm just going to make that all uppercase. And that looks good. That matches the kind of look that this other one had. I'm going to move that back up. And just like that. And again, every time you have a particular field or element selected, you'll be able to see which tabs become available, which of course means then you've got some other editing options. So remember, I went to layout here and I was able to change the placeholder text. You could change it if you wanted. You can choose, the label position where you want it to be. We have it inside here. And we'll be able to choose, the character range for what people could include, any instructions for the user that they may need, make the field required. And of course, we have the styling options. So if you wanted to change the font type, size, alignment, color, input height and color. So if you wanted to change, what color it is when people are typing their email address and name in, that's where you'll be able to all select this here. Input shadow, all of that. So definitely you have a ton of options here. The placeholder text, you can change the font type and size. The help text if you included it. So basically you guys have, all the information and all the options that you would need to be able to fully customize a form like 100%. So definitely don't forget to kind of remember that there's a lot of options here. And so sometimes you may have to scroll or kind of minimize some of these other options here at the top to see what's at the bottom, because there are lots of editing options. Because we can scroll down here and you can have an error message. So remember, there's a few options here. And then in the add field, remember we had predefined fields, your own custom fields, and you can add some static elements as well. Remember, if you wanted to add the privacy badge like we did, or a particular box, you can add an image, a divider, text, all of that can be easily added. And you can see if you don't want something here, just click the trash can. So you can see again, whenever you click on something, you've got some extra options here as well, the trash can. But whenever you select an element, you've got the editing options over here in these tabs. And here I've got the actual entire form selected, and I went to this layout tab, and that's where you can be able to actually choose the different display types. So embedded, is the usual embedded, within your page itself. You can do a popover, which is, like a pop-up, so it'll pop up whenever someone visits your page, or a light box. So that's similar to a pop-up or a popover, but the background is grayed out a bit. So this is where you would make that selection for your form. So you would just be selecting the form itself like that, go into the layout section, and you'll see the display properties. So if you chose, for example, popover, you could choose the delay, show every 3 days for someone, and what type of effect it would have. Fade or slide. So remember, embedded is your pretty common one, just embedded on your page. So that's where you'd make that selection as well. So let's say that, our form is looking kind of how we want. We changed our headline, we saw the editing options we had, we added this company field that we wanted. And remember, again, if you wanted to change the, information on the button, you have full customization. Remember, just double click on it and you can add your own text and all of that. So let's say that we like it. It's looking good. I'll go over here, and some options you have here is just simply to save the form. It's a nice idea while you're working sometimes, just to save your form as you're working. If you need to leave and finish for a little bit, you can just save and exit. So if you need to exit the editor and save your work, you can do that. And let's say we're ready to go and save and publish. So we're going to be moving on to the next step of who will publish the form on the site. So if you're comfortable with it, this first option is I'm comfortable with HTML and have access to edit your website. Just simply copy the JavaScript code and install it onto the HTML code of your website. Easy as that. If you are not totally familiar with that and you've got a web designer or developer, you can email it to them, to your web developer, and they can do it for you. Or the third option, GetResponse will host my form. So if you choose this option, is hosting your web form on a GetResponse server, and it generates a link. So you can use this link to be able to, hyperlink in messages or post somewhere for people to access this form and sign up for your campaign. So this is super easy as well. And just really quickly, so this is, how you'll publish it. You're presented with the code, you can email the code, or it'll be hosted with GetResponse, and we'll give you simply a link to the code, to the form itself. So one quick thing I could show you one more time is to go to your web forms list. So where you're going to be managing your forms. And again, this looks very much like your landing pages, if you guys are using landing pages and how you're actually going to manage them. So you're simply presented with, all of your forms. And this is the one we just created. Remember, newsletter homepage sign up, I called it. It's the internal name for it. And you can simply keep a track, easy look at your statistics. Of course, I've just created many of these, so not too much activity. So how many visitors to the form, how many subscribers you've gotten. You can view it online just to, remember what it looks like. You can edit the form from here, duplicate it or delete it, and you can turn a form on or off if you need to turn it off for some reason so it's not enabled. So this is how you're going to actually be able to manage your forms. So we've managed our forms, we've created a form, we've learned about the options we have. I hope you all have a full grasp on all the options you've got for creating some excellent looking forms that are really effective, get you high conversions and lots of subscribers.